Hey there, first-time viewers. Before the video starts, there are a couple things I need to say. First, a huge thank you to TJ Lee for letting us narrate and post the story in the first place. Me personally, I've always been a big fan of their writing, especially their pieces There's Only Embers in the End and Demi's Adventure. The heart-wrenching ones always get me. That sounded so ungenuine, but really, I love their stories so much. They are amazing. They're a very talented author, and I hope in the future they keep allowing us to narrate their stories. Also, my friend who voiced Anthony in this story is completely new to the narration scene, so yeah, cut him a little bit of slack. He'll learn and hopefully just improve within the next few videos if he's in them, hopefully. But yeah, without further ado, I hope you enjoy our first video.
I heard that Cave Betreyal has another name, the Siren's Cave. Folks say there's a gust that flows through the cave and causes the sounds of people calling to you.
I heard it ain't just the wind. Some old settlers explorers got stuck down there. Shit got real. And before they knew it, boom, they were gone. Maybe they fell into the pit.
My two friends, Trey and Anthony, kept on discussing the majesties of the strange cave in the middle of nowhere outside of our town. Some 70 miles north, there was a large swath of land housing a large cave that held the eponymous Wailing Cave. I was up for the adventure, being 17 and spending most of my life outdoors. But it was the insistence of my two aforementioned friends and their propensity to do far more daring feats that led us to this particular adventure.
Come on, Bryce. You know if we tell our folks, they'll just stop us. Or, worse yet, insist on coming with and providing boring rules we don't need.
Trey jabbed my shoulder playfully.
We're strong, virile men. We don't need any of that shit. Plus, we're not going to need much more than ropes, lights, a backpack, and some basic gear. We'll be in and out with either a boring story to tell, or
footage that will net us those huge YouTube bucks. Yeah, Trey, I know. Anthony stood up from my bed, hands on his back, and looking over at the map. He was very much the brains of the operation.
Alright, we'll leave at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Bryce, borrow your sister's car and pick us up. If your mom asks, tell her we're going hiking or something. Don't say the cave, obviously. If you're super worried about location tracking and your mom not believing you, just turn it off. We'll get to the cave before sunrise and be back home by early morning. If anyone asks, we're just doing some bonding in the mountains, okay?
bonding in the mountains? Won't that make people think?
Trey started before Anthony let out an audible sigh, and we broke into laughter.
Hey, it's cool, bro. No judging here. I mean, I know I'm your type, but my girlfriend may have questions.
After some light arguing and insistence by Anthony that wasn't what he meant, we broke open some beers to celebrate the plans in motion and got an early night. When I slept, I envisioned a small opening in the side of a large cliff edge, no bigger than me and almost as if it were manufactured to my size and stature. I felt my body drawn into it, and even when I tried to resist, my frame was inescapably pulled into the perfectly shaped holes in the wall. A force wrapped around my waist, wrenching me further inside. Slipping into the wall, I felt the constricting nature of bedrock push on my muscles, squeezing at my bones and ripping at my flesh as I pushed even further in. I could hear something calling out to me from the depths. Then, in an instant, my body was wrenched forward at an astounding rate. My skin split and I felt burning all over as I screamed for the dream to stop. When I awoke, I was laying in a cold sweat and staring down at the bedroom floor, my covers wrapped around me like a boa constrictor. What the fuck was that? We set about making our preparations in the morning. I felt the cold chill of November air hit my skin as I went downstairs and grabbed my gear from the garage and thanked my sister for the car, even if it meant bribing her $50 to not tell mom where we were going. By the time I picked up the guys and we'd reached the cave, it was nearly 6 a.m. Dawn was still some time away, but it wouldn't be long before the sunlight exposed our early hour abseiling, and we were pretty confident that this place was state property. None of us wanted to get caught by the state troopers or the police for trespassing. We worked quickly to get our gear and headed down to the mouth of the cave. This thing was gigantic, built into the side of a great rocky mountain that stretched across the surrounding plains, connecting at the base to a slew of other jagged giants that rose into the sky and looked as if they'd puncture the very clouds. The cave's depths were unknown to us, but the width of the mouth gave us a decent inkling. Over 70 foot wide and 30 foot high gave us all the foreboding we needed.
Damn. Big mouth, huh?
Trey remarked, trying to find a joke that fit in with his addled, juvenile mind.
Guess she can take all three of us at once, eh?
Nervous laughter filled the awkward silence as neither myself nor Anthony wanted to be the first to venture in. We had very little light beyond the first few feet and didn't expect to turn on our headlamps so early. Nevertheless, we ventured forth together, and within a few minutes, the entrance's warmth gave way to cold indifference inside the cave. The entrance was simple. It jutted down on a slightly steep incline for around 5 minutes before widening to a fork that split two ways, one going left and up, the other going right and down. Pausing for a moment to listen for any distinct sounds, we heard something emanate from the right path, a soft guttural wailing. "You think it's..." I began, eyeing the passageway with anticipation and concern, Trey rubbing his hands together.
Oh, hell yeah. I think it's a pit. We ready?
Before we even replied, he set off ahead and left myself and Anthony still faced with the foreboding nature of venturing on. We both knew there was something unseemly. "What did you say this cave was called? Siren's Call? I'd not heard that one before," I remarked, carefully trudging forward to catch up with Trey and flinching at every small juddering of the cave walls. Anthony scoffed and picked up his pace.
Clues in the name, bud. The Siren's Call was the original moniker locals gave this place. So they housed something deep in the pit that fed off those with weak wills. Used the voices of those they loved to entice them in, devour them. Natives said it was an evil spirit, told the authorities to seal the cave off, but of course they never did. It became known as the Wailing Cave sometime later, to help with tourism. I can't say I blame them. Sure as hell brought us here.
"Yeah, illegally, might I add," I remarked, forcing a smile. "Still though, creepy as fuck name." We nodded and turned the final corner to a large opening, the ceiling of the cave hundreds of feet above us, a pair of tunnels on the other side of the clearing around 200 feet across from us. In the center sat a pit with raised bricks around the opening, the width of it easily 100 feet. Even coming close to it brought me anxiety, but not as much as seeing Trey securing his line to the side of the pit and giving us a thumbs up as he sailed down.
See you fuckers soon. I'm gonna get us some money.
He called as he descended into the darkness. We shook our heads and tried to contain our concerns. Trey was always the daredevil among us. He'd once broken his leg trying to evade law enforcement, scaling a large fence, not even thinking about the drop afterwards. But when the line grew taut and the snapping sound bounced around the cave, we knew something was wrong. "Trey? Trey!" I called out. No response. We ran over and peered down the pit, his line still attached in absolute darkness after the first 10 feet. We held onto the line and tried pulling against it in vain, worried he'd passed out from hitting his head. A sense of absolute dread filled my body the longer I stared, Anthony's forehead breaking out into a cold sweat as we waited for a response. We got it, in the form of the line snapping and Trey's terrified screams as he fell further and further down. It was a horrific, visceral sound that sent my knees buckling and Anthony grabbing me to stop my momentum, dragging me into the pit with him.
"We have to go. We have to go get help now,"
he cried, shaking my shoulders until I saw sense. I nodded and we dashed for the entrance. What followed chilled my blood and stopped us both dead in our tracks.
Hey! I'm fine. Just spook the shit out of me is all. Don't panic. Jeez, just come back and throw me a line. I'll be able to get up.
Anthony breathed a sigh of relief and began walking back, but I pulled on his collar and shook my head. Eyes wide and full of fear, a finger up to my lips.
"What? He's stuck down there? Dude, we gotta help him,"
he hissed, keeping his voice low as I asked. "Did you hear his body hit the ground?" I asked, his eyes fixated on mine and not responding when I asked. "Did you hear his body hit the ground, Anthony?" He swallowed, looked over his shoulder and back to me, shaking his head. "How deep is that pit, if you were to guess?" I pressed him, a transference of nerves between us as we kept quiet.
Guys, you still there? I can just about make out your voices. Come and help me, man. We ain't gonna get that sweet YouTube stack with me staying down here.
He called, concern and fear racking his voice.
I'd say over 500 feet, if not deeper,"
he replied, the fear mounting the more he spoke.
"So if he did fall with the length of the rope bringing him down, maybe 200 feet.
He'd be dead. He didn't use anywhere near enough to scale that far down. So, I let the question linger in the air for a moment, and a chill ran through the cave. Was it debris the natives mentioned?
So, what is calling out to us from the pit?
He finally intonated, our foreboding growing like a cancer as we stared at the pit just 30 feet away.
Trey, what is your girlfriend's birthday?
I called out, an idea popping into mind.
Huh? Why? Guys, this ain't 21 questions. Come over and help me. I feel fine, but that may be adrenaline. I need a lift out of here. Now, come on.
He shouted back, Anthony taking another step forward.
Answer the question, Trey. Just want to make sure all is fine. You know the legend of this cave as well as we do. How far down are you?
He called out, the frustration apparent now in Trey's voice.
For fuck's sake, it's sometime in April. I can't remember when, okay? And I'd say I fell maybe 50 feet? It's soft down here. I guess it broke my fall. Happy?
Anthony and I exchanged looks as he shook his head, backing away towards me.
I hear you walking away. Damn it. Anthony, hey, you're the smartest guy I know. So I got a question for you. If you're that worried I'm not who I say I am, which, if you'll pardon the expression, is fucking stupid, who am I?
I swear his voice shifted just a tad as he asked the last question, but he didn't stop.
You've always been the sort of guy who loved mysteries. Imagine what secrets are down here. What you could know if you saw what I see. All you have to do is throw me a line. I'll tell you everything.
Anthony's eyes were wide, darting between me and him. I couldn't understand how this was even a difficult choice. It clearly wasn't Trey, or if it was, he was not someone we could save on our own with our limited equipment. Why was this so hard for him? But seeing that glazed look in his eyes, the slackness of the jaw as he walked over to the pit and threw a line, I realized why the cave used to be called the Siren's Call.
I'm begging you, Anthony, come with me. We can save Trey within a couple hours with the right people. We don't need to put ourselves at risk.
I reached out a hand, not willing to get close, but also worried about my friend's slowly deteriorating sanity. He looked at the rope and looked at me, holding out a hand, keeping his dominant one on the line of the rope as it fell down and knocked against the inner pit wall. In an instant, it grew taut and snapped as Anthony was pulled into the pit head first. His scream filled the cave and threatened to burst my eardrums with their piercing shrill. I turned away and covered my head until it stopped reverberating. As silence greeted me, I felt my body surge with adrenaline and all things urged me to go to the entrance. But as Anthony's calm voice called from the pit, a malaise overcame me, and while I didn't dare turn around, I suddenly felt it difficult to make any sudden moves.
Bryce, you're always a loyal friend. The furniture in the room that tied us together. You're never going to make it outside without us. You know that.
I gotta agree with Ant. You're sorta like the yes man, but awkward. Full of self-doubt and undesirable traits. Ain't nobody gonna want that complex mess.
I felt tears fill my eyes and rush down my cheeks. Something was crawling out of the pit, scaling its walls with thick digits, digging into the rock and grunting as it ascended.
I can't join you. I have a life out there and so do you. So do my friends that are using the talk right now.
I clenched my fists, trying to move but still unable.
Why can't you let them go? Why can't you let us all go?
Something pulled at the outside of the pit, scratching against the mortar and panting. It sounded large. Its vocal range began to sound like a dog's does when imitating human speech.
Then how else would we talk to you? We have no voice of our own. We know no other way than to be used as puppets.
It gurgled and laughed as Anthony spoke, his voice breaking down and distorting. Whatever was behind me was finding its way to me, and the voice grew closer. It was so visceral and real that I almost turned around.
Good job, Trey. After all, we're all meat puppets in the end. So, why wait? Besides...
Hot breath pushed against my ankles. It was so close.
You smell ready to us.
At that moment, my fear gave way to flight, and I bolted for the passage, dropping my pack on whatever was behind me. It contained several pieces of heavy equipment that I'd prepped for my own abseiling, and that being unceremoniously brought down on anyone would hurt. The thing howled as my pace picked up.
So ready. Why wait? So ready. Why wait?
It bellowed, claws and hot breath tearing to the walls as I rushed, my eyes blurring and my body aching as I pushed through the agony. As soon as light filled the opening, the panting stopped, no cry of pain or slinking into the darkness. It simply ceased. I didn't dare turn around until I was back at the top of the hill leading to the mouth. When I did, I saw nothing. Simply the entrance to the cave none of us should have ever ventured into. My friends still trapped inside. The drive home was filled with anxiety, fear, and pain. I did the right thing and contacted the state police on my way back. They mounted a search and declared that Anthony and Trey's deaths were entirely by accident. Death by misadventure was the official cause of death. We were called stupid boys looking for a thrill, and the town by and large felt sympathetic to me. Life moved on, and several years later, still living in that small, rocky town, I get looks of sympathy and pity.
Poor boy, he still thinks there's something there. Can't accept being the only one, I suppose.
They'd say, looking at me as if I were a lost lamb with no idea where to go or what to do. Even my own family gave me a wide berth, therapy, and support, but I knew better. I still do now. The cave has been closed off properly for some time. Nobody is smart enough to venture close since the incident, but that doesn't stop people trying, curious to see if the legends of Cave Betreyal, the Wailing Cave, the Siren's Call, are as grisly and blood-curdling as they heard. But, at least I hope, they'll never learn the full truth. Not long after the incident, I had those nightmares again, enticing me into my own private little hole in the wall, squeezing, constricting me. Only now, I saw my friends at the end of this increasingly claustrophobic tunnel, calling to me in pain to join them, to help them. I sought out a native man in the area and told him what happened. He listened and never judged or thought of me as a fool. Instead, his face grew full of sorrow and he handed me a totem to keep with me.
Spirits inhabit that cave, the kind that can never truly rest. They will always wish to pull more in and add to their energy. You were most likely their target from your dreams. The others simply used as bait.
Some nights, I don't just awaken in a cold sweat from the nightmares. Some nights, I find myself standing at the front of my window, staring in the direction of the cave, now seemingly visible from so far a distance, beckoning me. When I drive through the mountains for work, I hear them. I hear them so clearly. I hear their voices as clear as my own family's, calling into my ear.
So ready. Why wait?
Hey guys, if you're still here, feel free to leave a comment down below to let us know how we did or if there's anything we as narrators or I as an audio editor can do better. We're super open to criticism right now since this is our first video. Thank you again to TJ Lee for letting us narrate this story. I'll leave a link to their YouTube channel, Dusklight Radio, in the description. Also, thank you to the Dark Somnium in general for allowing his viewers to use his music freely. A link to his main channel and music channel will also be below. Yeah, that should be everything. We hope you have a nice day or evening, and we hope to see you again soon.